to a brand new episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Today I'm going to be covering two episodes, and they are The Rise of the Cybermen and The Age of Steel. Now, these two episodes were very interesting. They had a lot of really high moments, and quite a few low moments as well, in multiple meanings. I'll get more into that later, but really, let's get right into what I feel were the most important or best moments of these two episodes. Now, since there's two entire episodes to cover, I'm going to be doing essentially 6 best moments just to kind of keep it summarized. The first of which is actually right at the beginning, the death, so to speak, of the TARDIS. And just how grief-stricken the Doctor is, because obviously, it's horrible because with the death of the TARDIS, they're essentially stranded there. But the way he's talking about it is like, it's extinct because, as we learned earlier in the show, the TARDIS is a living being. So at that point, which we learn later isn't completely true, but if it dies, its species, I guess, so to speak, goes extinct. So that was, really sad. And to sort of add on to that moment would be when it's after the Doctor actually finds the one last remaining power cell that has the slightest glow, and basically the Doctor breathes some of his life force into this tiny cell. And I can't remember the exact quote, but he essentially says, I spent 10 years of my life to charge this thing, and it's worth every second. And it was, just something about that moment just felt so good. It's like the joy in his voice just felt really, really nice. Which actually, when he said that, it brought to mind, the Doctor's already over 900 years old. So I question, and I don't know if this is ever actually answered throughout the course of the show, but how long do Time Lords live? I don't know if they have a limited number of regenerations or what, but it's obvious that they live much, much longer than humans. So how long do they live exactly? I don't know. Like I said, it's just a question that came to mind when that occurred. Now, the second best moment of this episode, for me, honestly, it hit a bit close to home. It involves one of my favorite characters, Mickey, and it's when he sees his blind grandmother for the first time, and just the emotion that goes over him. And for me, like I said, it hit really close to home because I don't have any surviving blood grandparents. Well, I take that back. I do have one that I'm not very close to, but yeah, it's hard to explain. But there's just, none of the grandparents that I grew up with are still alive at this point, so it's just like that moment and that pure joy and sadness that washes over Mickey is just, I could really empathize with that. So that's what made that just a really important and powerful section of this episode to me. Now, the third best part of this episode, and this is really skipping ahead in Rise of the Cybermen, but the attack, when the Cybermen attack, that was just a really, I know the word is overused, but just an epic segment of this episode where they're marching in single file, and just like that stomping, that rhythmic stomping, just really it kind of grates on your nerves in a very creepy, horrible way. Not even so much annoying, but just grates to where it's just like a pff, 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 pff. And it was just an amazing segment, very powerful. Actually, all the way up to the end of the episode where the Doctor and all of them are surrounded. And that leads us into the next episode, but I'm going to hold off on that, and you'll see why in a little bit. But my next favorite part of these two episodes was when it's after the human race has essentially been enslaved by technology, which is a very interesting concept that I'll visit a little bit later. And when Pete and Rose find out that Jackie has already been turned into a Cyberman. And that was just, it was very surreal, because on one hand, Jackie continued to annoy me this episode. I know it was intentional, but it was just, her being there really annoyed me, in the way she acted the entire 2 episodes, except for the end, just really was annoying. And then for her to reappear as a Cyberman, just the way they wrote the dialogue was really, creepy and just very surreal. And I thought that was just another amazingly powerful part of these two episodes, or that episode in particular. It was it kind of gives me chills. But it's just that part was just very just right. The next favorite part of these two episodes is actually after I can't remember her name, but one of the women of the Preachers uses an electromagnet bomb to sort of fry one of the Cybermen, which destroys its the emotional inhibitor. And the person inside the Cybermen talks to them, and her name was Sally Felon, and this part was so depressing. Like, again, it's just like, great writing for this part, because it's this very disjointed cybernetic voice, but it's the mind of this woman who she was getting married the next day, and it was talking about how her fiance can't see her tonight because he can't see her until the day of the wedding, and just that entire segment was just so it just about brings a tear to your eye. It's just an amazing part of the episode. It was really good, and again, just very sad. And I was happy when the doctor did the humane thing and killed her painlessly, as far as I know, by basically destroying the robot body. And that was just a very powerful, amazing segment of these two episodes. And finally, and this part was more for me, but it's after Mickey and Polly. I don't remember the other guy's name, but basically when they destroy the transmitter, and it basically turns off all the inhibitors for the Cybermen, and all of the Cybermen just basically go insane. Which, on one hand, if you're not thinking about it too much, isn't that bad, because it basically just looks like they're malfunctioning, going crazy. But when you think about it, basically all of their emotions are driving them insane, because the emotions connecting to the brain, they're inside these cold, robotic bodies. They realize everything that's going on, and it's just so disturbing to really try and put that into context. It's almost impossible to kind of empathize with that kind of thing, but if you think about it, if your mind was put into a robot body, and from what everyone was saying, it hurts to be in these things, and it's cold. So just to all of a sudden go from being yourself, however long they were mind wiped blank, and then to be in this body, it's just, the insanity and the unimaginable pain they had to be in was just another part of this episode that just really drives a chill up my spine. And it was really good, but again, very disturbing. And I don't know that I would call this final part like my favorite part of the episode, because it was really sad, but the fact that Mickey left, and I can understand why, because Mickey found a place where, well, one, it's like, he grew immensely as a character. Like, I've always liked him. It's like, I liked his personality, but he really grew. It's like, he showed great bravery in both of these episodes. Like, it slowly increased, and it just kind of went up near the end of the second episode, The Age of Steel. And it was just really sad to see him go. And I assume he's never going to appear again, based on what the doctor was saying. They can't go back to that universe. It's against the rules. So, sign off for Mickey. Unfortunately, he was a great character. I really enjoyed him. But moving on from my favorite parts of this episode, as I said, this episode had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Some of the lows could be interpreted as sort of like, the more depressing moments. But there are 3, maybe 4 particular things about this episode that really bothered me. And, for me, at least, they were pretty big problems that just, I can't get past. And those were, Well, first of all, and this one isn't so much a problem because it sort of made sense as the episode went along. But the main bad guy, who I don't even remember his name off the top of my head, and I forgot to write it down, but just the way he talked, it was so annoying. But then it's like the Cybermen sort of talked like him, so it kind of made sense in that way. So, like I said, I'm just going to mention that. It's not a major problem. But to get into my actual problems with this episode, the first one is, okay, at the end of the first episode, they're surrounded. And at the beginning of the second episode, Age of Steel, the Doctor pulls out what I guess it was the battery that he had charged earlier in the previous episode, and all of a sudden it just disintegrates all of these Cybermen. And at the time, one of the guys says, "What the hell was that?" And that's a really good question. What the hell was that? Because and it's not even explained very well. How can this battery just all of a sudden like disintegrate several Cybermen when it's just a little battery, and then afterward, even though this battery took 24 hours to recharge after the Doctor gave away 10 years of his life, all of a sudden it can charge again in 4 hours? What the hell? It makes no sense, and I get it, that happens a lot in the show, that things just don't make sense, but that's just really annoying, and it drove me nuts the entire episode. I was seriously just like, what the hell was that? But I did. Anyway, moving on to my second annoyance with this episode. Okay, when, I can't remember who all it was the Doctor, Rose, Pete, and the other character whose name I can't remember. But they were hiding behind some trash cans and some things, and some Cybermen that are patrolling basically surround the trash cans where they're hiding, and then the Doctor points up his sonic screwdriver, and the Cybermen go away. Why did the sonic screwdriver make them go away? Wouldn't that give them away? Wouldn't that give away the Doctor and everyone? It made no sense at all. And I mean, at the very least, the battery and all that can be explained in some way, but that just made no sense at all. If someone can explain it, please do. But it's just, that's another part that just drives me crazy still. And finally, now, the Cybermen are intimidating. As I had mentioned earlier, the marching, the stomping, they're fairly intimidating creatures within the Doctor Who universe. But, well, one thing, when they kill people or they delete them, basically get this kind of bad CGI electricity going over people, and that's not too bad. But I feel like it would have been more intimidating or more menacing had, when they delete someone, that kind of literally happens, like they disintegrate the person. No, that's just in my mind, that it would have been more intimidating and made more sense to delete someone and they actually like sort of physically get deleted as opposed to just dying. And then later in the episode, when the transmitter is removed, and I think I got things screwed up earlier, but basically when the transmitter is destroyed, all the humans are let go of their basically brainwashing via the technology in their ears, and they all start running away, and the Cybermen are just kind of like toppling over. What happened to the big badasses that could just touch someone and they're dead? It's like they lost all of their intimidation factor at that point, and that was really unfortunate, because I feel like, it's like they took these major badasses that, should have been majorly intimidating. I'm repeating myself, but it just removed any and all, like, sort of fear you could have of these guys, or at least for me it did. But really, those were my major problems with the episode. Overall, I really like these two episodes. I'll get to my synopsis in just a second, but first I want to get into my favorite quotes of these two episodes. Now, the first one, it wouldn't be so much my favorite quote, but it was definitely the funniest quote that I can remember from the two episodes, and it's when the Doctor is still looking for any sign of life within the TARDIS. And he kicks the TARDIS, and Mickey says, "Did that help?" Doctor replies, "Yes." "Did that hurt?" "Yes." And this again, it's like me delivering it isn't as funny, but to see it on screen, just the way it plays back and forth, is absolutely hilarious. Great quote from the episode Rise of the Cybermen. But my favorite quote from both of these episodes came from the Age of Steel, and it's when the Doctor and them find all the people. It's like they've been the brainwashing essentially has commenced. All the technology in people's ears have basically taken control of them. And the Doctor says, "Human race, you're such an intelligent lot. You aren't half susceptible. Give anyone a chance to take control and you submit. Sometimes I think you like it. Easy life." And that's just very telling. Really one of sort of the way humanity is at this point. It's like, I'm basically relying on my smartphone at this point for, trying to remember things for me talking in this episode. And all kinds of other people too. We all, like anyone that has a smartphone basically has an addiction. We have an addiction to technology in general. And then if you've seen the movie, The World's End, I won't give it away if you haven't seen the movie, but just like it is a very similar theme there. And I really like that. And for those of you that have seen it, think of this as like, in a way, Gary King is almost like the Doctor of that movie. Think about that for a second. In addition to that quote, it's very interesting for that movie, which I really liked. But anyway, just to give a quick synopsis, because this is running really long. I really liked both of these episodes. I will say that. I did have these major problems, which is very strange because while these were easily two of the stronger episodes of the season so far, it was also, in a way, the most problematic. And I don't know if it was just... I don't know what it was. It's like, despite the fact that they had really good writing, or maybe it was good dialogue, just certain aspects of it, like maybe the way it was directed, or things just weren't properly fleshed out or properly explained. I don't know. Or it could just be me that has problems with these things, like the battery all of a sudden becoming a weapon. But overall, I would not say that these are my favorite episodes of the season, but they are very good and very, very powerful episodes, and two that definitely stick out in my mind. I don't know where, like, sort of at the end of the season, where they will stand overall for me, but again, I really like them, and yeah, I'm ready and raring to go, ready to see what happens next in the show, especially now that, poor Mickey is gone. It's unfortunate I won't see him anymore in the show, or at least I assume so. And just ready to see what happens next, where they're gonna, what world Rose and the Doctor are gonna go to next. Well, everyone, thank you very much for watching this episode. I apologize for it going on so long. I hope you enjoyed, and leave your comments down below. As always, let me know what quotes from either of these two episodes you found to be your favorites, or some favorite moments, just favorite parts of both these episodes that just really stuck out in your mind. As always, I love hearing what you all have to say. I am so happy to have a very interactive audience with you all. I feel really blessed about that. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you all very much, and I will see you next time on the next Discovering Doctor Who.